Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. I wanted to make a video, short, like catch-up video lecture, just to make sure we're all on the same page and know what we're doing, and also to discuss this story with you a bit. A very old man with enormous wings. We are on day 3 of our online instruction. I made the good morning post, but let me go over it here in this video real quick. Our agenda today is the daily check-in, which is due by 4 o'clock, as always. You need to complete the following for the daily check-in. You need to write a paragraph analyzing how Marquez uses literary devices or elements in his short story. You then need to write a one-paragraph analysis of how that Vox article also uses literary devices or elements in its effort to be an informative article. If you've noticed, the section header for this unit is analyzing genre connections. And so one of the things that we're trying to do with this story and the informative articles that you'll be reading about the story is to see how authors can use or use different styles of writing and different literary devices, different techniques, depending on the genre that they are writing in and the goal that they are trying to accomplish. So you'll analyze how Marquez uses literary devices in the story, and then how the Vox article uses them um, in an informative effort. You then need to reply to 2 of your classmates' posts. Pretty normal stuff here. I posted a PDF guide to literary devices or literary elements. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I mean things like similes and metaphors, alliteration, imagery, those kind of ideas. Um, and so we're going to look at the short story in a minute, and I'll talk about a few of the ways that Marquez uses that or uses literary elements just to get you guys going. I also posted a reading that we're going to be working with tomorrow. It's called Wings. It is a critical analysis essay that was published in an academic journal about Gabriel Garcia Marquez's story, or about, I guess, teaching the story and some of the challenges that the story poses that you may have experienced as students reading it. So please read the article. It's a little longer than the stuff we've been reading, so I wanted to post it today to give you guys time to read it for tomorrow. So, in order to get you started thinking about literary elements within the short story, I want to take a look at just the opening paragraph, because this opening paragraph does a lot of things. So, the opening paragraph, "To a very old man with enormous wings," begins, "On the 3rd day of rain, they had killed so many crabs inside the house that Pelayo had to cross his drenched courtyard and throw them into the sea, because the newborn child had a temperature all night, and they thought it was due to the stench. The world had been sad since Tuesday. Sea and sky were a single ash-gray thing, and the sands of the beach, which on March nights glimmered like powdered light, had become a stew of mud and rotten shellfish. The light was so weak at noon that when Pelayo was coming back to the house after throwing away the crabs, it was hard for him to see what it was that was moving and groaning in the rear of the courtyard. He had to go very close to see that it was an old man, a very old man, lying face down in the mud, who, in spite of his tremendous efforts, couldn't get up, impeded by his enormous wings." Okay, so um, one of the reasons that I think this is such a powerful introduction to the story is because of Marquez's way of just chaining together literary device after literary device. So if we start off, "On the 3rd day of rain, they had killed so many crabs inside the house that Pelayo had to cross his drenched courtyard and throw them into the sea, because the newborn child had a temperature all night, and they thought it was due to the stench." This opening sentence is kind of jarring because um, you get this idea of like crabs inside the house, which is not something that we're used to or accustomed, and it right away kind of throws us into a state of disorder. Like, where are we? What's going on? But then think of like the imagery that is being used here. So imagery is the use of language to create mental images and sensory impressions for the idea of creating emotional effect and intensity. So we have 3 days of rain. We have the idea of they've killed so many crabs inside the house. So it's not just that there are crabs in the house, but they've killed that many. We have the drenched courtyard. Um, we have the imagery here of a newborn child with a temperature all night. One of the things that I like about this is that we know a newborn child with a temperature all night is going to be crying and screaming, and yet Marquez doesn't have to say that the child was screaming all night. He just notes that the child had a temperature, and you kind of get that idea on your own. And then he ends the sentence with, they thought it was due to the stench. So think about what he's done there. There's visual, there's olfactory, your sense of smell. He's bringing the idea of audible, if you're hearing the child cry. All of this sensory language creates an image in a single sentence right off the bat. Then he says, the world had been sad since Tuesday. Does anybody, if you're out there listening to this or watching this right now, does anybody know what form of literary element or what style of what literary device this is? This is personification. This is when personification is when a non-human thing is given human qualities. The world cannot be sad, and yet here he's using personification to create this imagery, this atmosphere, this tone for the story. The world had been sad since Tuesday. We move on. He says, the sea and sky were a single ash gray thing, and the sands of the beach, which on March nights glimmered like powdered light, had become a stew of mud and rotten shellfish. I think this might be my favorite sentence in this introduction. We start off with just this beautiful, sad, gloomy imagery of the sea and sky were a single ash gray thing. So, like that spot on the horizon where the sea and the sky kind of meet, it's the same ash gray color blending together. And the sands on the beach, which on March nights glimmered like powdered light, had become a stew of mud and rotten shellfish. So, first, if we remove the which on March nights phrase, we have the sands of the beach had become a stew of mud and rotten shellfish. Um, I think there's so much sensory language going, kind of alluded to there. Imagine walking through a beach that has become a stew of mud. Just the sounds of your feet sinking into the mud, the texture of the mud, all of that you can almost imagine and feel it. And then to have it that addition of rotten shellfish, so the aroma, the smell of, you know, um, kind of a gross beach. And then uh, there is this simile in the middle. So remember, a simile is a comparison using like or as. When you compare two nouns using like or as, March nights, the sands of the beach on March nights glimmered like powdered light. Powdered light. Um, okay, so those are the kind of ideas I mean with literary devices. I'll leave the rest of the story for you guys to analyze. So you're going to look through the story, think about how Marquez uses literary elements or literary devices, and then also look at the Vox article to see if the author of an informative text uses any of those literary devices, and if so, why or how. That's it. If you guys have questions on anything, please let me know. I'll be around my computer all day long.